All right, all right, all right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. My name is Ian Robinson, and I am a Maxon ZBrush trainer, and I train ZBrush, and I teach it, and it's fun, and it's awesome. So welcome in, and today we are going to go over more of the last week's, well, I'm just making Pickle Rick. Just Pickle Rick. That's what we're doing. So hopefully everybody's doing well. Hello, Edwin. How you doing? Welcome in. So we also had somebody in the chat last week. I forget who, so I apologize. Somebody last week had said, hey, we should do Doctor Strange cape, because we started talking about capes and we started talking about dynamics and cloud dynamics. So decided off stream to kind of test build a few different things, and so I can showcase how I built this cape so far. But we're gonna go ahead and do it. So it's a little bit of a mashup. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So let me go ahead and get my glove on and let's get started. And as always, to get everybody, you guys can ask questions about ZBrush. That's what I'm here for. If you have any questions, if you're stuck, feel free to pop on in. It's bright and early in the morning, so hopefully this mashup will be fun. And also, just real quickly, yesterday we had a stream that was with a multi-stream. It was with Funko. And so I actually want to, if you guys missed that, I want to just share that real quick, because it was a lot of fun. We had 6 artists from Funko jump on and hang out with us and kind of share their techniques and how they build pops, and they all popified themselves, which is really, really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and get you the link real quick to that, and then we'll get started. Let's copy that and let's paste that there. So just in case you missed it, it is there and it will be super fun. Okay, so let's get going. All right, I'm just going to start. So what I had done off stream was kind of come through this. I made a little bit of a pendant, used some nano mesh, because right here, actually let's do this real fast. I kind of built this nice little pendant right here, and then I used nano mesh to basically propagate all these spheres so that we can get something like that. And it's a little big, so let's actually scale this down and reposition this. And this will be for 3D printing as well. Go ahead and scale it up a little bit. And push that into his body. And right here, we have just a basic plane that has dynamic thickness on it. So you can see it's just this right here. That's all it is. Nothing too crazy. So we can actually hit D for dynamic. And then we can adjust this according. So let's actually... We can't end up making this real geometry as well. And I think that's what I'm going to go ahead and do, because it's a little too low at this point. So I'm actually going to apply it. And then let's go ahead and do, let's do group by normals. So let's go up to, hey, what's up, Sir Chan? Pickle Rig is, strange Pickle Rig is looking red. Awesome. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I've been enjoying figuring out this mashup a little bit. So we're going to go polygroups, and let's go group by normals. And I'm going to select this guy right here, because I still want it to be single-sided geometry. So we're going to delete hidden. And I have double turned on, so to make sure that the normals are facing the right way, we'll turn that off for a second. And now let's go ahead and just start manipulating this a little bit closer to what we want. Now we have a little bit more geometry to play with. Yeah, we're still in the blockout phase too, but I'm excited where this is going. I might give him a goatee, since, you know, Doctor Strange has like some sort of goatee happening. Give him some facial hair. Why not? He's a pickle. And we can maybe make the facial hair look like dill, so that it doesn't look like hair. That might be kind of fun. So, and just in case too, if anybody is wondering, this is my new stream time. Before I was streaming at around noon, but just based on scheduling and everything happening on a day-to-day, we felt that streaming earlier might be a little bit better. So this is the new stream time from now on moving forward. So we'll be here at 9 a.m. every Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and reselect this. I'm going to hit D for dynamic. And because I had dynamic thickness turned on under geometry, dynamic subdivision, I had thickness set before. Whenever you set dynamic thickness for one subtool, or you have it set before, and then you return on dynamic subdivision, thickness will kick on again as well. So if you ever hit D for dynamic and you realize it's thickness when you don't, just go back in and turn that off. Hey Andrew, welcome in, welcome in. And so too, with this cloak here, let me pull my reference up real quick, if I can get the right scaling. Let me pull my reference up real fast, because actually the Doctor Strange we're pulling from is going to be the 1970s Doctor Strange, so not the Benedict Cumberbatch version. So let me go ahead and load up my reference. Let's go to load. So let's go to zoom out. So we're actually going for more of this look right here. So you can see the pendants that we made. We're gonna do the sash. Maybe we'll do the sash as well. I don't know if the sash will be too much, because I still want more Pickle Rick. I think the cape might be enough. And then maybe we do like, yeah, maybe we do like a mustache. Yeah, more of a mustache. So that'd be kind of fun. I'm wondering if we should do the hair as well. I don't want it to be too much, but we'll see. We'll see how this works out. We got time to play. If we're gonna do a mustache, let's actually drop his mouth a little bit lower. And then too, we still got a pose. And I went ahead and started some of the mechanical aspects of him, a little bit of hard surface, but we're gonna continue that as well, because I think ultimately he would look good with these razor blade gauntlets of his. I think that'll just make it even more epic. So we'll start building that. Actually, let's start building that now, and then we'll propagate that over. So let me go ahead and save this. And I think I want to save a project because I want the history. So we're going to go ahead and go to File, turn on History, Save As, Pickle Rick Cape Project version 2, because that one has all the blockout. There we go. All right, let's start making the razor blade. So we're going to set him off to the side right here. And because it's a project, I'm actually going to go ahead and do it right there. And then let's grab a cylinder. Let's make Polymesh 3D. So we're here like this. And now this is basically a cube. So we're going to turn on the gizmo by hitting W and going to our polycube. The polycube is the best cube in ZBrush, in my opinion. It has all the right quads that you need, so you don't have to guess anything, and you can also adjust how many of these edge loops you want to start with. So let's do something like that. Let me grab my copy. All right. So now I'm going to get a different material just so we can see what's going on. Now we're going to go ahead and hit that gizmo one more time, and let's prop this up. Something like that. It's a little bit more of a rectangular shape. And then let's turn on our symmetry, and then we're just going to hit B, I, and T. And we're going to go ahead and grab a cylinder with no edges for these round little bits. There we go. Let's turn on local sim. I'm going to go ahead and scale that down like this. So those will be those little disc plates of his. Yo, what's up, Kimmy? How you doing? And now I'm going to separate these out because I don't want them to be a part of the same mesh. When I do hard surface, I do a lot of blocking out, and I keep them all separate in the beginning. Now we'll turn on ZModeler. We're going to go to Insert. We're going to insert a different set of these groups. Let's see something like that. And then let's see, we got another one. So I'm actually going to go here to This edge, we're going to go poly group. I'm going to make different poly groups. Hover over the Qmesh for inset, group all, and I'm going to go ahead and inset a new inner edge. And then we're going to hover over this line and actually do bevel. That'll give me the structure here. And now we're going to go ahead and start doing a little bit of separation. So I'm going to hover over bevel. I'm going to pick the size I would like to have these split. And then we're going to end up tapping. Actually, let's go a little bit bigger. This will be 3D printed. So we want to make sure that it is going to be the same on each side. Let's cover back over this face, go Qmesh, polygroup all, and then we're going to just push that in just ever so slightly. Like that. So that'll give me that disc shape. Hey, what's up, Keo? How you doing? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We're just getting started today. Some nice Pickle Rick action. And now it looks like we have a little bit of stepping here. Getting that Doctor Strange look today. It's going to be fun. Okay, how do I want to do this? I want this to look like it's stepped in a little bit. Okay, I think I know what I want to do. Maybe? Want these to look like kind of like gears, but not really. Okay, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do polygroup on the face with checker. And let's make sure we do polygroup all. But before we do that, let's go to the edge and make this its own polygroup and get something like that. I'm fine today. Work is a bit soft, but I can see you for a while. Oh, perfect. Awesome. Well, it's so awesome to have you here. Seriously. We've been hoping this time slot would be a lot better for a lot more for the audience. So awesome to have you here. Okay, so we're going to do, welcome to my thought process. We're going to do inset now. And I'm just wanting this to be lifted just a little bit. Maybe something like this. Yeah, maybe something like that. But then let's go on this edge and let's do bevel. Yeah. Okay, this might be the long way around it. Yeah, that almost doesn't actually matter. I don't even have to bevel that. That's actually perfect. So here's what I'm looking for. So let's go over this edge, go insert a single edge, and we're actually going to use a supporting edge here. So I'm going to sew this out. And I'm going to do a supporting edge loop on each side. Then let's actually do the same over here. So I'm going for like a very specific fall off. You can do this by controlling the edge loops. Yeah, that's a bit better. Just a very subtle thing. It's going to be so small, but it's going to look kind of, I like how that's looking. Now let's actually do us a favor and let's go ahead and crease some of these edges. Here at work too, but nothing as usual. Nice, nice. Well, always awesome to have you guys here. I love hanging out. All right, let's crease all of these edges. Because oops. Crease this edge, crease this edge, crease this one. I didn't want to polygroup all because I didn't want these to be creased. I wanted these to have this kind of step effect. Just a little subtle, a little bit of texture, but not really emphasizing too much detail. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cheat it. No, we're going to take a something like this. Now let's see. Let's do a model kit part. I want something like a fastener but something unique, something like this right here. Drag this out. Maybe scale that back down just a little bit and push it in. And we'll build on top of this look right here. And actually, I don't need to get too much into that, but that should sell the story enough that there's more to it than there needs to be. Where's this gonna go? That's a great question. Okay, and now we're gonna go ahead and get the blade tops. So we need the insert edge for the blade, and so we're gonna go back to ZModeler, and we're gonna pick this guy right here. Let's go to inset. Let's inset this just a little bit. We'll push this in. Yeah, just like that. And now let's go ahead and add a couple edges here. Is that what I want to do? Is that what I want to do? No, let's add an edge here. So we're actually going to go to multi edges and add a couple centerline edges. Select these two right here. Actually, I'm going to select these. Check this out. I'm going to turn off symmetry. Anytime two edges are selected to each other, and I want to do an inset, right? It's going to connect those two, but I really want there to be an independent version of this. So instead of going both, I'm just going to do the one here because I need these little holes right here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and mirror and weld that. And that's going to give me what I'm looking for. I could just do the repeated action, you know, which is fine, but mirror and weld is just as effective. And then from there, I can go back to having symmetry turned on, go back to Qmesh and start pushing this in a little bit. Hit Alt for a different poly group, and there's that. Hey, what is happening? You love the improvising too? Yeah, absolutely. This is what I really like about ZBrush. See, so here is that shape that we're going for this razor blade. And if we take a look at it right here, so, you know, maybe these will be detachable options for the final sculpt. But right here, we have this whole connection piece that's coming through, and we want these razor blades to pop out. And we still need to, on the inside, kind of make these look a little bit more like handles. So, and here it looks like he has screws. So we could either do screws or we could do razor blades. I'm thinking more razor blades. I think that's a little bit more fun. Might be a little bit harder to 3D print, but at the same time, it could be a really nice element. And so now I'm going to also want to add these like little plugs and stuff. So be able to really adjust all of this. But yeah, the ability to improvise is actually a lot of fun. And this is a little too tall. So let's actually drop this down. Let's select this guy here. And now I'm just going to go ahead and mask this bottom section off and just raise this up a little bit. Something like that. That should work out. Now I'm not going to make those the attachment for the elbow the same piece. I'll make it the separate piece. But we do want to make this part right here, like the cut in, we want to make that a little bit, we want to make that one piece. So if I can learn to speak today, we can do just that. So I'm actually going to use Qmesh. I'm going to hold Alt and select this whole section here. Hover over that face. We're going to go to Qmesh, Polygroup All. I'm going to go ahead and maybe push that in just a bit. Actually, let's deselect these by holding Alt one more time. So we don't need these selected. I'm going to push that in and then push that in one more time. There we go. So that's the piece that I'm looking for. And just to give it a little bit of love, we're going to create our own custom bevel. So instead of coming here and hitting bevel, I'm actually going to add a couple supporting edge loops, hold Alt over this edge loop, and delete that. And that's going to give me a nice controlled bevel. Or what we could do, let's hover over this edge, let's do this, let's go bevel, let's go partial loop. I don't like that either. Here's what we're gonna do. Let's actually insert an edge right here on top. Let's come here, insert, and then we'll delete. There we go. That's a bit better. We can always repair that if we want to. That's not too big of an issue. It's a toy. I don't have to worry about the actual support. We could collapse this edge if I wanted to, but it is supporting that. So geometry, maybe not the prettiest, but the effect is what I want. So yay for toys. Yay for toys. We don't have to worry about it. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I love ZModeler. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, and let's actually real quick give us a little bit of control here. So I'm going to go ahead and do crease by poly groups. And that's going to round it up too much, and I don't want that. So we're actually going to, now that we crease by poly groups with our current poly groups, let's actually go to, I lost my tool list. Let's bring that back. We're actually going to go and do a group by normal. So poly groups, group by normals at 90 degrees. And then let's go ahead and do crease by poly groups. That's also under crease, geometry, crease, crease polygabries, and then go ahead and hit D. And that's going to give me a nice sharp edge. If I want a little bit of fall off on that, then what we could also do, well, you know, we could also crease this. That's a material. It's going to be shoved in there. We don't need to worry about that. Does ZBrush have measurement tools? I want to see if some parts are 3mm for example. Yes, absolutely. So what you want to do, if you first want to size it. So when ZBrush comes with measuring, the thing you want to remember is that ZBrush doesn't control the sculpt based on the measurement out the gate. ZBrush allows you to create the model, and then you can size your model to whatever you need, and then control the thickness there. So if you would like to work within having controllable measurements, let me save this real quick. What we can do is actually turn around, and I didn't mean to do that. Let's actually save this as our blade handle. So what we could do is we can actually then set our sizes. So we're going to go up to Z plugin. I'm going to dock this on the left-hand side by clicking this little icon right here, or clicking and dragging. And let's go to Scale Master. And really, to size anything, Scale Master is all you need. So if I wanted to make sure that this was at least that 2 to 3mm thickness that you're going to want for toys, the first thing we'll do is with our object selected, we're going to hit Set Scene Scale. Or what you can do is create a bounding box first, so it's a little bit more controllable. Let's do the bounding box option. So we're going to go to New Bounding Box Subtool. And what this will do is when I hit this button, it's going to look at all of my subtools and create a bounding box around that object. It's also really cool because if you need something like a sword sheath, and you have the blade and you have the handle, and you're like, hey, I want a sheath that's around this length and size, you can actually just come over here, create the bounding box, and that'll get you really close, and then you could just modify. But now that we have this cube here, and I've turned on transparency so you can see the object within, I now can set my scale functions to this. So we'll hit Set Scene Scale and just give it a millimeter function. So here, you know, if you could give it any function, you give it inches, feet, centimeters, millimeters. I work with 3D printing a lot, so millimeters is the form factor that I'm used to, so we're going to go with metric. And then let's say I need this object to be at least 1 inch tall. Like, that has to be at least 1 inch tall for the scale. So I'm actually going to go on Y. I'm going to type in 25.4 millimeters, which is equal to 1 inch. Or I could just go to inch and type in 1, same difference. And then I'll go ahead and say Resize Subtools with the all selected. And that's going to scale everything. So then now the bounding box is the control factor. So anytime I want to measure something, now if I hit Set Scene Scale, you'll see that on the Y-axis it's now 25.4 millimeters. So how do we measure? So turn on hit W for the gizmo, and then hit Y for the transpose. And now with these points here, these edge loops, I can go ahead and start dragging out my transpose. And if I hold Shift, it'll snap to the next edge. Up here at the top, I can actually get a measurement. So right now, I can measure from point to point, and that's 22.02. You could zoom in a little bit more, and you can actually line that up, get that point. So 12.7, so let's actually do the whole thing. So you can measure. And now what's really neat about that, so there's our 25.4, and it goes to the 4th decimal place, which is really good. That's tight tolerance. So now let's measure that thickness. Let's come over here, say solo, and now I want to measure from here to here. So those 2 points, 2.155 millimeters. So this is a great way to check your reference. So just click a point and drag that on over. So here, from here to here. And I'm actually not holding shift right now. It's just snapping to that nearest point. If you want to hold shift, the shift will give you a straight line. So if you need a straight line, just come on out and that shift will snap to the straight line, but it'll snap to point as well. So just start measuring from this point to this point, and that is 24.6 on that side. And there's this thickness right here. This point to this point is 2.155 millimeters. So that is a good size. We could actually scale that up a little bit more if we wanted to. You are welcome. So now let's say we did want to make that just a little bit thicker, just because we're like, that might be too thin. Okay, it's broaching on that 2 millimeter minimum. So I'm actually going to just go ahead and on Qmesh, I'm going to go ahead and let's do a mirror and weld so that we have both polygroups on both sides. Go to Qmesh, polygroup all, and I want to start scaling this out, but I don't want a new edge loop. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold shift and I'll drag that out a little bit. So we'll just start clicking this out, say shift, something like that, and then make your measurement again. So turn on that transpose and then start re-hitting that. And now we're at 2.4 millimeters on that wall thickness, which is perfect. And then just hit Y again for the gizmo, or keep the transpose if you're old school, or if you like to learn the transpose. And that be it. And then you could work in this scale too. Now that your scene is set, here, check this out. We can go ahead and save this. And I'm gonna just do this just so that you can actually see it in real time. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save on this. And I'm gonna go ahead, did I save this one? Did I save this Pickle, Rick? I can't remember. Let's just save it anyway. Because what you could do is if you turn off ZBrush, and we're gonna do that together. So I'm just gonna close ZBrush here. And now I'm gonna reopen ZBrush. Let's go ahead and do that. And when we reopen ZBrush, the thing you're gonna realize is that when I load that ZTL back in, so let's come in here real fast. Let's go to our load. Let's get our blade handle. I load this in. Here's my blade handle. Of course, I have the bounding box. All I need to do is if I want to reopen this project up and work in that scale, just go back to Z plugin, go to our scale master with our bounding box that we selected, just hit set scene scale, and you'll notice here it remembers the 25.4 millimeter. So you could say, okay, boom, now I'm working in that scale factor, and let's just go. So ZBrush again provides you the ability to just work without worrying about scale, but if you'd like to have that scale factor, it's a really easy setup. And then export here. I'm just going to cover export real quick, fast and in a hurry. So if I wanted to export this out the way it was, I was super happy with it. Just come on down here to export to unit scale. You could select all. You can export this out, and then you can name your subtools whatever you want. This is our blade handle. So yep, and I'll go ahead and export that as OBJ. Or what you could do is that if you wanted to use the 3D print hub, just note that the two plugins don't communicate with each other. So whatever you set the scale master at, that's only working within that plugin. So you'll just want to select your bounding box, come on up to our 3D print hub, and then just say update size ratio so that you can pick the, oh, that's the 25.4. And now you can use the 3D print hub to export out 3MF, STL, OBJ, etc., etc. Pardon me. And then you could just go ahead and just hit export STL and then come through and export those STLs and then do this naming convention. You just have to make sure that you update that size ratio. If you don't update the size ratio, then it will export out with whatever the size it sees on the subtool that's selected. So that's why the bounding box really comes into play. So there you go. All right, let's continue making this. But if you have any questions on that, please let me know, and we can dive in even deeper. But that's pretty much the gist of it. All right, let's go ahead and actually start creating the razor blade section. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a separate piece using a little bit of artist, what do we call that? Interpretation? Is that what you call it, Ian? Yes. We're going to use a little bit of artist interpretation here, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of create the idea that this actually is coming out of just a slightly different spot than before. So we'll have it something like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple edge loops here. Yeah, like that. And then we're going to pick this one. Qmesh that sucker right down there. Alt, do different poly group. There we go. And then come here, inset with this poly group. And then if I hold Alt and delete that edge, it'll do a slight bevel. And then I can come in here with this edge, insert, and create just a little bit of edge control. And I actually am going to want to crease. I'm going to do this manually just for funsies. Just going to do the partial edge loop. I'm going to crease these corners here. Then I'm going to crease this inner one, the complete edge loop right there. Something like that. That way it stays pretty sharp. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And this material is way too bright. We can't see anything, so we will do something like that. Perfect. Okay, let's actually create the next spot. So he has little extenders coming down to support with the elbow. So let's actually just insert a new cube. Put this over here. Scale this up. And I'm not too worried. It's just a simple shape. I'm not even really going to modify it too much. I'm going to let this live just slightly shorter than our original thickness. And then I'm just going to go ahead and mirror and weld that. On down like that. Now these wheels might be a little skinny, so let's make those a little thicker. All right, we got that shape. Let's actually save this as, and then let's load our pickle. So I'm going to actually open up a new project, grab our version 2 pickle. Great. We'll come here. We'll actually delete this one, and then we'll go ahead and load the new tool. There we go. Now we have this, and let's just go ahead and save this one more time so that updates that. Because remember, projects will save all of our different tools that we have set up, but it actually won't save, kind of writes over the original ZTLs you have loaded. So if you load a new project, any ZTLs you have, if you don't save them out, it's going to go ahead and write over that. So just make sure that you back those up before you do that. And let's go multi-loops. Let's just give this a little internal geometry. I'm doing this just so I can actually not subdivide so much with this piece. There's no need to do that. We'll come here. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's looking mighty nice. It'll be good once we pair that on. Let's do the razor blade next. So we're going to go ahead and insert a plane 3D at this point. So we're going to scale this up. And we're just gonna cut this guy all the way up and create our razor blade the way we need it to be. So we don't need to overthink this too much. Now here's a feature that I love calling out. I'm gonna go ahead and take my pure ref, and I'm actually going to turn it off to always being on top. I'm gonna set this up and put something like this on here. And then I'm gonna actually turn on see-through. And I'm going to position this to be right where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and select the knife curve with Control-Shift. And now I'm just going to go ahead and Position this right where I need it to be. We're going to cut that right there. And actually, okay, perfect. Double tap Alt to cut it off this way. And actually, you know what? Before we do this, let's actually give it a little bit of thickness. So let's go to Qmesh. Just give it a little bit of thickness right here. That way we can actually cut this geometry down. No. Whoops. All right. That crashed because I actually made a mistake. I can tell you exactly what happened. And that was completely my fault. And I'll show you why. So basically what I ended up doing was I made a cut and then I didn't hit Control Z. You can't cut over a cut. Do not cut over a cut. Don't do the cut over a cut. Bad Ian. Why would you do that? It's supposed to be showing this stuff off. All right, so let's try it one more time. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And that will cause crashes. So if you've had crashes before with the knife tool, that is a great possibility that is what's happened. So don't do what I just did. Learn by my mistakes, please. All right, so let's take that knife curve just one more time. We'll go ahead and cut this. Double tap Alt, bloop, slicey. Come through here. Cut that section off there. Come here. Hold Shift. Boom. Got our razor blade. That's how you do it. Don't do it the way I did it. Hello from Jamaica. How you doing? So it's kind of to show us that, yeah, of course. Happy little accidents. No, but seriously, yeah. If your geometry with the knife curve is a little wonky, there's a good indication that you'll actually get a little bit of bite back. So, and that's why I'm like, oh, that was me. I completely messed up. So now that we have this, we can actually do a retopology if we would like to have that. I'm actually cutting off the tip here because I'm going to 3D print this and I don't want any sharp edges. It is something that you worry about when you do make toys. So don't do that. And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to go ahead and let's do a polygroup by normals at 20 degrees. And the reason why is because I have a plane change right here. And I'm going to want to keep this pretty nicely. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of thickness. And I'm actually going to cut this down, and then I'm going to cut this one down. So this way I have different polygroups. And I'm just going to go ahead and Control W that to make it different. So now I have all these different polygroups. And now I'm going to just ZRemesh this. Let's actually save it real fast. So I'm going to hit save. Hey, what's up, Talon? How you doing? You the magician of cucumbers, vinegar, and brine is here. Yes! Emperor Cheese is here. What is happening? Welcome in, welcome in. Boop, boop, boop. All right. So let's go ahead and do a ZRemesh. So we're going to go ZRemesh, detect edges, and let's just see what that works. Let's just see what that looks like. Let's go group of 10. Let's ZRemesh. I'm making a similar model, and this gives me many ideas. Awesome, Keo. That's awesome. Most printers can handle sharp edges as long as they are on the extreme. Oh, wait, most printers... Are you asking, oh, can most printers handle sharp edges as long as they're on the extreme part? You don't know. Yeah, they could. I mean, they can, but it's more of a safety thing I'm coming at it from, where I would much rather not have any sharp edges so that, A, there's no little bits in the printer, but B, if you do make something that's super sharp, you do kind of want to just be aware that, you know, especially if you're making something for kids, just it's nice to kind of clip that. You don't have to worry so much about anything else. All right, look at that. That's actually pretty nice. We can utilize this fairly well. And because we're actually going to be using live Boolean to cut the rest of the holes, I'm not going to do ZModeler for that. It'd be way too complex for no reason. So we have our little razor blade here. We'll scale this bad boy up. We'll stick this right about here. Now we have a little bit of interesting clipping. So we can do one of two things. Either this is too deep, and we can actually come in and fix this right here, which was probably the best solution. Or what we can do is just clip the razor blade. I'm thinking this is too deep, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use Qmesh to benefit me. So I'm going to turn off my dynamic subdivision. I'm going to insert a new edge where I would like the new thickness to be. Okay, and then I'm going to hover over here, Qmesh, and I'm actually going to pull that to that edge loop. Done. Thickness acquired. Well, that was easy. There we go. And now let's actually take this razor blade. I'm going to widen that just a little bit. I'm going to stick this up here, and now let's get those holes going in the way we would want it to be. And we're going to make that hole a little bit wider just to meet our normal thickness. But we're going to put this in a folder, and we're going to call this blade. And now we're going to go ahead and insert, and I'm actually going to insert just a cylinder. And we're going to turn everything else off by holding shift and tapping the eye and just using the razor blade. Let's scale this up. I'm going to come through it like this. And I'm now going to go with extender and pull this up to get this nice custom shape. Scale this down. This way. Make this really, really skinny. Like that. If I go back to the extender, I can make that longer. Or I can just mask off and pull that straight up. Should be the easiest way. Whip. There you go. Just like that. Now we'll push that through. Make sure it comes out the other side. Just like that. And if you don't want extender on there anymore, just go ahead and say accept. And now we can go ahead and I can mirror and weld this to be true. Shove this in my folder, set this to negative cutting, bloop, and turn on our live boolean and position this wherever I would like it to be. Looks about right. Yeah, that'll be good. And if we want, let's actually go just a little bit more like that. There we go. Blade acquired. Well, I have to say, actually, the benefit of the ZModeler brush is the fact that modeling mode is always activated. I know ZModeler is a little interesting on its approach, but I think it's a small learning curve, and then ultimately I end up favoring it over traditional box modeling. Me personally. All right, we're gonna give this some sort of edge real quick, and I'm thinking the quickest way to do that. Well, we could just probably sculpt it. Just do a trim dynamic or trim adaptive. Turn this on. Maybe? How do I want to do this? Let's do, yeah, we could do transform on the Z. Yeah, we could just do that. We could probably just manually make this a little bit more. And if we do that, let's actually give it some subdivision so we can actually clean that up a little bit. So let's subdivide a few times. Give it a little bit of topology to work with. Or we can actually use clip curve to come through here. Could do that too. Let's try clip curve first. That would be the easiest way. Hey, what's up? Exactly. It's not complicated, but once you get used to it, it's awesome, man. Hey, and not totally related to this, but you have a decimation question. Sure. Is there a good way to have or preserve smooth groups from ZBrush? Having troubles decimating meshes outside of it. You're having smooth with decimation or Dynamesh? I want to make sure I understand the question, but yeah. Just let me reread that. But I have a decimation question. Is there a good way to have or preserve smoothing groups from ZBrush? Okay. Here we can actually do something here real quick, and then yeah, let me go ahead and do that. Let's actually try clip curve real quick, and then let me just to clarify. You're talking about decimation, correct? Like when you're ready to export something out for 3D printing, Or are you talking about like when you're trying to ZBrush and you're trying to, yeah, that's a little bit better. Let's do clip curve. The right side of things. Clip that down just so it has a little bit of that razor blade shape, but still a nice sharp edge. Yeah, perfect. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe just a little bit more. Really push the bar here. Yeah. Don't want to go too much. There we go. That's better. There we go. And we can do a light smooth here on the edges. You can actually drop down subdivision and do a light smooth here. And then step it back up. There we go. Got a razor blade. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay. Yes, decimation is just like a decimated statue, for example, but I don't know how to keep everything smooth with how Decimation is irregular. Okay, perfect. All right. So I got some tips for you then. Not a problem. Let's actually turn off. Let me go ahead and just go and boolean this folder. So then we get our final razor blade right here, which is nice. Turn off live boolean because we don't need that. Okay. And then we'll actually bring up a good example for preserving details. So let's go ahead and save this. And then let's save the project. Okay, so, and I'm actually going to pull up Earthquake, I think, for this. Because why not? Earthquake's a good model. Or actually, you know what? Let's all pull up an oldie but goodie by Joseph Drust. This is actually one of those models that comes shipped with ZBrush, so we can grab this Greyhound dog here. It's a really fun model. It has a lot of little details and stuff like that. So we have something like this. And I'm going to go ahead and let's check to make sure there's no subdivisions. Let's make sure that layers is turned off, or thick skin's turned off. Beautiful. Okay, so we have this model, and I'm actually going to subdivide it a few times. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete lower. So geometry, delete lower. This is my details here. Okay, so there's a few tricks with decimating a model down. Let's turn off the floor in perspective. And so when I want to actually go ahead and decimate this, one of the biggest tricks is, you're right, when you go ahead and hit decimation, there are some irregular actions that happen because it's trying to preserve all the details possible. So if you're using Decimation Master, you know, you have a few options at the top where if you want to keep and use Polypaint, UVs, etc. But the real hidden trick is actually through masking. So if I would like to preserve the face of this dog, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the mask and I'm going to mask off this section here. And this is going to focus all of its attention in the decimation process on this masking element first. At this point, I'm now telling ZBrush, this section right here is so important. I don't want this to actually be smooth or warped in any way, shape, or form. And you know what? I really like the knots in the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and take the knots. Everything else is fine. I like that, but I really want the knots, and I really want the face to be the most important part of this piece. Now, if we go here and we go through the whole decimation process, which hitting pre-process will look at your entire model and see what that is, and then go through and hit the decimation next, which will go ahead and take that pre-process information and decimate it. Or you could just come down here and select either a custom point, or you can pick one of these preset buttons. You'd be surprised how low you can go. But if you're 3D printing something, you can keep it as long as it's under 1 million active points. You should be fine. So I'm going to actually start at 500, and I'm going to hit this custom preset. And we're going to look at this polyframe real quick. And I really want to pay attention to this polyframe, or this wireframe. So we're going to keep an eye right here. I'm going to go ahead and hit custom. We're going to let ZBrush do its magic. I am sculpting a Doctor Strange Pickle Rick mashup. It was originally just a Pickle Rick, and then somebody in here last week was like, hey, what if you did a Doctor Strange cape? And I was like, I like where you're headed. I like what you're headed. All right, we're letting this think. Now, this can take a little bit of time depending on how big your model is, so do keep that in mind. But with this trick, this will help with Decimation Master putting more information or more topology in the masked area. And you're going to see a pretty big difference between the head and the body here in a second. But Decimation Masters also, you have to remember too, you could be going too low with that process. So if you're going really, really low and everything is smoothing and looking really choppy, then it's possible that it's just too low, and I encourage you to actually go a little bit higher just to make sure that you're preserving the model as best as possible. But here, this should be a really good decimation drop because we're going from 4.2 million down to 500,000 active points. This is the boring part of ZBrush. Or we're waiting for it. We're waiting for it. It's happening. Soon the magic will happen. Yeah, hydration break, exactly. And while we are waiting, just real quick too, if you guys missed yesterday's stream with Funko, you guys should definitely check that stream out. That was a lot of fun. We had Funko coming in, and it was the first ever multi-studio sculpt. Not a sculpt off, just a sculpting session where they were able to come in and share their tips and tricks and stuff like that. So, okay, so our decimation process is done. And now I'm going to clear the mask. So there's no mask. And now take a look at all of the topology information. I'm going to zoom really far in, and you can see where it's decimated, and then you can see where it took that mask into consideration and really like preserve that face. If I hit Control Z, this was the before, and this is the after. So you really can't tell the difference. So this is exactly probably what you're looking for. Yes, absolutely. So just do that. And if we zoom out, take a look at the rest of the model. You couldn't tell, if I hit Control Z a couple times, you couldn't really tell that this is actually decimated. And like I said, we went from 4.2 mil to 500. I would say don't go any lower than 250,000 points. If you got a lot of detail like this, anything lower than that and you might actually be losing out on information because you can only give it so many points, and so many points can only hold so much detail. So, sweet. Do I miss working at Funko? Yeah. Everybody there was so awesome, you know, in a bittersweet way. Like, I love what I do, and it's been amazing to be able to come on here at Maxon and be a part of the team. It was actually a personal goal of mine to eventually come in and be a part of the ZBrush team. But yeah, Funko was one of my best job experiences before Maxon. So no, I do miss it. It was awesome to reconnect too and see him. So, all right, let's open up our new project. Yeah, 3.7 million. Yeah, cool. Before and after zoomed in on the tail. Oh shoot, sorry. The tail actually looked pretty good. I totally just like moved on fast. Yeah, let me. I'll go back and I'll just redo that real fast. In fact, I'm just gonna go ahead and do a quick mask real fast. Do that. Perfect. Go ahead and subdivide it a few times. Got that 4.2. Delete lower. Do a quick mask on the head just so you could see it. Bop, 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 bop. There we go. Even better. Consistency is key. 500. Let's just go ahead and prep that. This might take a second. So I guess I'm going to have a little bit more to drink of my coffee. Yo, B! What's up, dude? Thanks for stopping in, man. All right. We'll let this process a bit. Any questions so far, actually? When it comes to ZModeler or... Oh, here we go. Let's see. Will Pickle Rick's Cape also have some type of pattern or detailed design? Some filigree? Yes. I am thinking about adding some filigree. So while we are doing the ZModeler Let It Go Through, actually, B is in the house here. He sent me these images of Doctor Strange 1970, and there is some really nice pattern and texture along this edge. So when we build this cape up a little bit more, we'll actually get some of this pattern detail in there, because that's actually making it, you know, that Doctor Strange feel. So we're gonna go with this kind of design. It may not be exactly what you're seeing here, but it's going to be something very close with a squiggly. So maybe I'll make like some sort of pattern within ZBrush, make that an alpha, and then use some UVs to turn around and get this pattern to project onto the cape. That'll probably be the best approach to do that. I don't see me hand drawing that in any way, shape, or form. Hi, NJ. Welcome in, welcome in. We're just going over the decimation process. If you mask off the areas you want to preserve before you decimate, Decimation Master will take all that in consideration and make sure that it's going to preserve those details over all other details. But that being said, if this tail ends up being a little wonky here, which actually if we zoom in, it's not that bad. If I Control Z a couple times, that's the before. Come back forward, that's the after. Yeah, it just has a little bit of information there that maybe is not, you know, it's not as smooth as this, but you can barely tell from afar. So if that's a little too choppy for you, then I would just say mask off the tail as well, and then that would be enough. So just remember, the more you have masked off, depending on the active points you send it, the less information it has to use over everywhere else. So masking off the tail, the knots in the face, that would probably be like all I would recommend. Let the rest of the topology work through. You got it. Hey, Tatoon. Oh, welcome. If you want to pattern the cape with Polypaint, do you use Spotlight? Do you Spotlight for that? Yeah, if I wanted to use Polypaint, Spotlight for sure. Let's actually open back up our Pickle Rig project, and that's the thing too. So let's actually cover that real fast. So let's come here real fast. So let's say I did want to add this. I wanted to add this pattern to this cape. So I'm going to take this right here, and just for fun, we're going to go ahead and do subdivide. We'll apply and subdivide a few more times to have a little bit more information, something like 2 million. So that's a decent amount of information. Now, I actually don't have that image download, so I'm going to use the snip tool that comes with Windows. I'm just going to go ahead and snip that pattern real fast. Save as. I'll put this on my desktop, and we'll call this Dr. Stranger. I've been typing Stranger Things too many times. Let's actually put that under our Pickle Rick fan art. Let's do that. So now if I go here to our texture, now this is really cool. So if we import our texture, there's our Doctor Strange clip. And we're going to go ahead and go to our texture and import that into our Spotlight. Now Spotlight defaults to having, if we go here to samples, it defaults to having Spotlight projection. The reason for that is if we wanted to take our paintbrush and start painting detail onto our cape, we absolutely can. And I could actually use this to paint that information on there and then turn around and make sculptural changes by masking. Or what I could do as well is if I wanted to add this here, and this goes for anybody who's trying to texture anything. Like if I wanted my pickle to have actual pickle bumps, actually, you know what, we can actually do that next. Again, I just come over here and I can, let's say, use like the standard brush with RGB and Sculpts. And then it's going to take all of this, it's going to take the black as being the deepest cuts and any brighter color as being the height cuts, and I can actually apply sculptural changes to that as well, giving some sort of texture and detail. So we could actually texture our pickle just like that, which is a good plan. So that's why when you load up a texture, it's automatically having Spotlight projection on. But if you want to turn that off, just go to Brush, Samples, Spotlight projection, turn that off, and now if I go ahead and I'm trying to apply, notice that it's only adding the white color selected. It's not even sampling the color here. This is how I used to bring in reference, hitting Z, Shift Z hides, etc., etc. So it all depends on how you want to do that. That is exactly how you would want to do. And then we can go ahead and click this and click that guy and then get rid of that. You could use surface noise, I believe. The wood one, yeah, could do that as well. Absolutely, not a problem. Glad to be able to help with any cloth tips. Hey, Ann, how's it going? I had a question about how you would go about sculpting a short buzz cut tapered look for a male hairstyle for 3D print. Are you thinking Guile? It's a very specific buzz cut. Let's give Pickle Rick the Guile look. Just for that, just for funsies. All right, so so if I wanted to do some sort of kind of like the male version of Cyberpunk 2027, I'm not a super big Cyberpunk guy, so let me look up Cyberpunk 2077 and let me see if I can find images of what you're talking about. Are you talking about the main guy? You talking about this guy right here? Male version. Is this the guy you're referring to? The slight buzz cut here? Yep. Okay, great. Actually, this haircut, I would probably, if I'm going to 3D print this haircut, I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to keep it very, very simple. So there's very, very like small, minute little details here. But the most important thing to pay attention to is actually the way that the hair is flowing. So what I would probably end up doing for 3D printing, and we can go ahead and okay, this may not look good on Pickle Rick for the demonstration. If we were going to do the Guile one, I would have done that. But let's go to a tool and let's just bring up this guy's head right here. So what I would do is actually just do everything like kind of like a traditional sculptor would. So I'm going to go ahead and solo this head out. And then let's make sure, okay, perfect. So let's mask this out first. Let me look at the hairstyle one more time. And we'll kind of do it live on the fly, just to give you a sense of where we go with that. So I'd actually come through here, grab the mask lasso. I would lasso out this guy's hairstyle. Something like this. And actually, I'm going to give it some actual subdivision. So we're going to apply this. Apply. Oh, it has layers. Oh, fine. Let's go ahead and delete. Okay. Go ahead and do that. Let's apply that. It's perfect. Go ahead and just delete lower for this demonstration. I'm going to come through here. I'm going to go ahead and kind of follow the natural hairline that you would have, something like this. Doesn't have to be super perfect. You don't have to be precise in this blockout. You can just get the basic shape, something like this. Boop. That should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen that mask. And then I'm going to go ahead and use subtool. And we're going to go ahead and use a extract. Now, I would actually apply thickness to this. So let's see what 0.02 thickness looks like. Ooh, that actually might be a little too big. So let's go 0.01 thickness. I'm just going to hit accept. That should be fine. It's going to give me something like this. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and actually auto group this. Polygroups, auto groups. Select the hair that I want and delete hidden. And now I'm going to turn everything else off except for the head right here. Okay. Now from here, I'm actually going to go ahead turn on symmetry if it's not already. And I have the basic shape, but I'm going to go ahead and maybe scale this in a little bit. Bring it closer to his head. Now his hairstyle is pretty asymmetrical, but the main blockout is pretty symmetrical. It's just the top part. So you're really going to want to pay attention to maybe the separation of this. So I would say maybe take your damn standard and so BDS, and it looks like there's a nice separation here. So I'd actually map this out. And you can make this two pieces if you want, but I'm actually going to make this one piece. right there. And then I'm going to take the clay buildup, so BCB. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of lightly scribe this down. Turn the intensity down just a little bit. I'm going to start pushing this in a little bit. Maybe smooth that out. It's pretty buzzed right here. We're going to have this just kind of underneath the skull surface, just a little bit, not too much. And I'm working kind of fast, so definitely make sure to take your time. You know, get everything blocked out pretty nicely. But we'll get some shapes right here. And maybe I'll take the damn standard and start flattening it out. Cleaning that up just a little bit. Now, depending on the head shape that you have, you know, conform the hair to the head shape. So I'm actually going to hold Alt with Trim Dynamic and bring that out a little bit. And smooth that down. Remember, Alt, Control, and Shift affect brushes all sorts of different ways. So when you're playing with stuff, holding Alt or holding Control will give you a lot of different vibes. So you don't have to keep switching to build something up. If you're like, that hair needs to come up a little bit, Trim Dynamic will help pull normals the other way. And now I would actually mask this section off, turn off asymmetry at this point. And then now you could do this one of two ways. You can actually bring in any hair that you would like, so you can make little curves. Or you could just take the rake brush, maybe drop this down a little bit, and start getting some sort of idea on how this hair actually flows. Now, the important part is to realize that people have parts in their hair, and hair has to look like it's coming from somewhere. So I'm actually going to be starting any hair that's underneath, or any hair that would actually be growing and then something would be on top. You start with that section there and kind of just do a light buildup, and you start actually creating the feel of hair. And it looks like his buzz is pretty interesting. So his hair is pretty short. Now, if you go the route of adding curves to it, I would say it's probably best to just, again, take your time, block everything out. So I'm going to do something like this. Now, what I'm going to do is, this is just to give me the feel of it. I'm actually not happy with these results as the immediate, but hair is all about blockout. So we're just trying to find the feel. I'm going to do a light smoothing here, because I'm going to want to refine this. Okay. And now with that rake, so now I have direction, and that's giving yourself guidance. I'm coming through here and I'm just trying to like give myself a little bit of like, okay, this is how it should feel. And now we can actually too take maybe like the clay buildup and maybe come in here and start cutting some of this in, or maybe just take the trim dynamic here again, come through here, start refining a little bit, giving it some more shape and volume, really working where that is. He has a pretty far part, so I'm actually going to push this in a bit. Maybe something like that. Okay. Kind of look at it. Hair has to feel like it's growing from some spot, so it's good to make sure that it's intersecting. And now from here, the like traditional way of doing stuff is to take clay buildup now and start bringing in some of these layers. We're just building up a little bit. Now, I don't want to give him too much volume. It's a short haircut. So here, I'm just going to kind of emphasize a little bit of that hair. So hopefully this is giving you that idea. And I'm always going to pull away and see how that hair is looking. Let's get the move brush here. I'm going to use symmetry to tuck this in just a little bit. Push this down. Reshape it if you need to. maybe for this buzzed effect here, I'm going to pull up the standard brush. I'm going to go with spray with alpha 7. Maybe hold Alt, give it this a little bit of a feel. Maybe hold Control, give it just a little bit more feel. Maybe zoom out, see how that's looking. Yeah, kind of push this in a little bit. Making sure this intersects a bit. Yeah, now hair takes a long time, so do yourself a favor, okay, and really just like play with it. You know, I've been doing this for like what, maybe 10 minutes, and it's giving me the right shape, it's giving me the right vibe, but I would really want to make sure I just take my time and refine this a little bit. Yeah, and then pull yourself out and then take a look, and you know, hair makes the person. So this was the original hair, and now this is the current hair. And again, so you're just going to work with this shape. If you like to use any type of curve brush, what I would recommend you do for the look and feel of any curve, we have curve alphas. You could do multiple or single, and you can actually come in here and maybe pick something like, oh, what do we want to pick? I don't know. Let's actually just keep it simple. He says that as he looks around aimlessly. Maybe something like this. Let's give me, yeah, that'll give me something cool. We'll turn off symmetry. I'm going to go up to stroke. And I like to, this is how I like to adjust my hair stuff. I'm going to go to curve. I'm going to turn off repel completely. And then I'm also going to go up to picker and going to go to continuous Z. And this is going to map out every single section in which this is at. Okay, and I'm also going to go up to stroke. I'm going to go up to modifiers. I'm going to turn on the intensity. There we go. And that's going to map that. And then I'm also going to go up to stroke and create my own little curve, because I'm going to do little short stubby little spikes here. I'm going to do something like, that's too big. Maybe something like this. Play around with that a little bit, but this is going to help map just a little bit more. And then you could start actually building up your curves if you would like to use curves. This is probably not the best alpha for that. Although, I don't know, actually, this might be. This might work out. So you can start adjusting this, and then you can actually control drag that if you would like. Bring this in, start manipulating, and get some hair down. I'm not liking that, but hopefully that gives you an idea. You could use a curve brush for that too. That's going to take too long for this demonstration, but hopefully this gives you a sense. And you can just clean this up. Actually, let's go curve here. Yep, say okay. Yeah, say okay. Yep. And as long as the hair looks like it's coming from somewhere, you'll actually get a lot better result. So hopefully this was helpful. Yep, very helpful. All right, cool. Hey! So is extracting just a way of extruding a mask? Yes, that is exactly correct. Yeah, and it's very, very useful for getting stuff like this. And then again, too, play build up. And actually, you can adjust the focal length to get a much sharper fall off. Follow this up. And then I would just work this. Work it, girl, work it! I would just work this until you are satisfied with the results. Just keep your directions purposeful. If you wanted to go this more route too, just take the damn standard next and start emphasizing some of these natural indicators of where this hair would be. And kind of work that in. Now we're just playing with hair. But anyway, so hopefully that works for you. Yes. Pickle Rick looks fabulous. Someone wished to use him as an example. I know, right? Yeah. But I don't think it would have sold as well as this in this example. Oh, I don't know. Let's see here. Let's copy this. Let's copy this lovely hair. Let's come in here. Let's do this. Let's go paste. Where are we? Scale this up. There we go. Here we go. Ah, it's almost the perfect fit. Here, look at this. Here we go. Let's do this there. Pickle Rick! Yeah, it's perfect. Look at that. Here we go. Here. He's blonde. JFK Pickle Rick. Yeah, right? Okay. Well, it works out well. Okay, so let's go ahead and... All right. All right, well, I'm glad that's helpful. Yeah, just play with your hair. Just, you know. And the other thing, too, if you have a similar haircut or you just look up real life hairs. Never take the first reference as gospel. But definitely take a peek at what you have going on, you know. And then from there, just make your adjustments as needed. Pickle chat. Oh, that's beautiful. Every time a haircut, put hands on head, feels bad. Oh no, bald is beautiful, B. Bald is beautiful. Come on, man. Weren't you the one preaching that? It's beautiful. Okay, let's go back to our pickle rig. Let's start bringing in this hard surface work to our model and sizing it. Now we did do a scale, a subtool master scale. Sorry, a scale master for the subtool. So when I bring this in, the sizing is going to get a little interesting. But that being said, when we finally size Pickle Rick, we'll be able to go ahead and get all that other stuff adjusted as needed. So I'm just going to give this some color so that this color actually makes sense. So I'm actually going to give it a metal material because it is primarily metal. And we're going to go ahead and say color, fill object with mRGB on this one. And then this one here is, for the most part, is a darker color. Let's Control Z. Let's come back in here. Let's grab this guy. So I'm actually going to take these objects here. I'm going to make this wheel mostly a darker gray. Actually, there's a color here. I'm going to grab this color from Pickle Rick that's stamped. I'm going to go ahead and say fill object. And this metal's actually a little dark. Yeah, that should be fine. I'm going to come in here and actually make this one a slight white color and then go fill. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Oh, you know what? There's actually no... Okay, so if you ever get this gradient, which is happening right here, so if I take a look at this, there's just no real color information. So I'm going to back this up. When I had my infamous moments of, you know, smashing ZBrush, I forgot to add these back in. So let's go ahead and just add this information back in. This will do that. So this way, this will help capture some color information a little bit better. And now let's give that a go one more time. So I'm actually going to select this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. Come here, grab that. Go ahead and say fill object. Switch that color. I'm going to hit C over this image. So then I can turn around and now fill this object, color fill. And it's going to have a little bit softer of a gradient, but that's just fine for now. It's just not so much information. And then I'm going to grab this guy, grab this guy, grab this guy. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and color fill this. So now this will automatically be white. Same issue here. So let's actually, before we do that, let's back this up. Gotta grab that. Let's do this. Let's actually subdivide this one a little bit more. So let's actually come through here. Let's do poly groups, crease by poly groups. So we're gonna go crease Paul Gabries. There we go. So there we go. Subdivide this a few more times. That's better. That should be better color information. Gonna go ahead and now grab the things that we want to grab. There we go. And all that good stuff. Let's grab that there. There we go. That's better. Let's go ahead. Actually, let's remove that one and remove that one. That's fine. Let's go ahead and do color, fill object. Switch color, fill object. There we go. Yeah, that's better. And we'll refine that a little bit more. Temporary colors for now, but this looks a lot like what we're going for, which is exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and save this. Oh, let's see here. I think I missed a question somewhere. Did I miss a question? You have to. Oh, Keo, you have to go to work. Oh, sorry, man. See the reply later. Thank you so much for everything, teacher. Awesome to have you here, Keo. Have fun at work. Oh, what was my there? That was the question. Comics Legend, I got your question. What was my favorite project you worked on so far this year? I actually cannot say. Actually, the Demogorgon project right now has been super fun. And then the Street Fighter challenge that just ended over in my Discord was also a lot of fun. I would say those two projects are some of my favorite that I can speak on. Yeah, but as far as like work-related stuff, can't say yet. Can't say yet. But as far as like personal projects go, I'd say those are some of my favorite ones. And this one is turning into be one of my newer favorite ones as well. Okay, so let's actually do Okay, so here's a really cool trick I want to show everybody. If you didn't know, you can actually copy and paste folders. So the other way of copying objects over is going to like a merge visible and then bring that over, then reseparating it after auto groups. You don't have to do that. We can actually put everything inside of our folder. So I'm actually going to select these guys right here, hit Control F, and with this little pizza box, it's going to notice that if you have more than one subtool that's hidden or deselected and you have a bunch of selected subtools, by hitting Control F, it's actually going to say all these selected subtools, do you want to put them in a folder? So you go ahead and say yes, and then you name this folder Blade Main for now. Okay, and now everything is here in this folder. Turn this pizza box off and everything got moved. Now we can go up to Z Plugin and we can go up to Subtool Master, because we are the master of our subtools, and come down to Copy Folder, come back over to our Pickle, and now we can drop down here at the bottom, and then we can say Paste Folder. And that will propagate the folder on over from one section to another. And here it is, and it is obviously super massive in comparison to our original model. So I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this on, just select these. Whoops, turn off symmetry. I'm going to start scaling this down because we didn't size this model. I'm going to set this off over here. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn everything else on by hitting Shift. Turn that pizza box back on. Deselect the things we don't need. And now we can position this right where we want it to be. Let's actually come here 180. Yeah. Gonna rotate these down, say about there. And let's just start moving them right where we want them to be. Holding Shift will snap every 5 degrees on the axis, which is fine. And now we can go ahead and rotate this around to be this more on top. There we go. We will end up making his hands fists. But now we can see here that this might be a little too wide, is what we were originally going for. And instead of just doing this motion where we squeeze it down, although that doesn't work out. That's not too bad, actually. That does work out well. The other way we could do it is actually hovering over here. Again, we can drop our subdivisions if we would like. And we can go ahead and say, yeah, let's go ahead and delete that higher now because we have all that information. And let's come in here, hover over here. Let's go Qmesh, polygroup all. Hold Shift and kind of bring that in a little bit more. Yeah, that's not too bad. You can also come in here, maybe delete this edge on this side and on this side, holding shift and narrowing that back in so that now they're intersecting a little bit better. We can adjust this as we need. There we go. Then from here, I would like to make the box itself wider. So here's a really cool trick we should be able to do. Let's go up to transform. Let's use posable symmetry. That's okay. We can do this right here. Oh, actually, hold on. Did posable symmetry turn off? Yeah, posable symmetry got turned off. Did it find it? Was not stored. Was not stored. That's okay. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. We can actually just come over here. We can make this wider in our own way by just doing that guy right there. There we go. Let's come in here. We'll just make this wall thickness a little bit better. Do something like that. Actually, let's do this guy right here, make it a little bit thicker. And then I'm actually going to come in here. I'm actually going to pay attention to the thickness. Say 1.35. That's fine. Set that over there. 1.35. Close enough for... Yeah, there we go. Bit custom work there, but that should get that blade in. Yeah, the blade's a little too small. We'll go ahead and scale that up. There we go. Perfect. So now we can go ahead and start mirroring welds. Let's make sure our local sim is not turned on. Let's go ahead and mirror and weld all of this good fun action. Bing bada boom. It's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. How did you delete those edges and having it attached back together? That's a great question. That is Qmesh. So I'm actually going to go ahead. Let me save this real quick. So I'll save the project, and then I'm going to go ahead and just focus in on a cube real quick. So if I come here to this cube, and I'm going to do something very similar. So I'm actually going to go ahead and say make Polymesh 3D. Let's open up here, and let's kind of, I'll recreate it just so you can see how it was prepped as well. And then now what we could do is use the ZModeler. Let's actually do the symmetry motion. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to come in here like such. And we're just going to go ahead. So with Qmesh, what's awesome about it is that it detects edges. So notice how I was able to pull this in. I masked this section off here by holding Alt and tapping, creating a temporary selection, and then I push this in, and it automatically, as I pushed it in, starts to recognize edge loops and respects the faces and the edge loops. So I had an edge loop here on the inside, like this. Let's come in here, edge loop. And then I had this edge loop right here, right? And then I had pretty much, zoom in just a little bit. I had this kind of, I had this polygroup section. So what I ended up doing was I removed the edge loop I didn't really need. So I had an edge loop here. I said, oh, I don't want this one. So I ended up just alt deleting that one. And then as I was holding Qmesh, right, it ended up respecting that. All of these were different polygroups. So it ends up respecting that edge. And then I held shift to widen that in. And that's it. Matt! The cube! Yes. So on a more complex level, which it's really not, you know, it's just more, it looks more complex than it really is. But here, I was able, come back. I was able to pretty much just come in here, grab this, hold shift, and snap that back and make that a little skinnier. And that respected that. And then from here, I can actually come in add some different edge loops if I want to make this a little bit better. So that's the beauty with Qmesh. If we were to do this with extrude, and this is why I favor Qmesh over extrude, if I wanted this section here, like these two edges right here, I want this edge to come in. This is what Qmesh will do for me. Qmesh will allow me to create these custom shapes quick on the fly because of that respect, right? And it's also acknowledging that there is steps in between these. If I were to do the same thing with extrude, it's just going to try to push it in, and it's not going to respect the different edge loops and stuff. Extruding is really good for its own reasons. Qmesh allows us to come in here and start respecting the different topology, and you can get really fun shapes this way. You know, this is actually one of my favorite methods. And if you wanted to pop a hole, then here's a really cool thing. So let's grab a cylinder real fast. So if I wanted to insert a cylinder, let's say I want to make kind of a a custom donut shape here. I'm going to go ahead and just use my insert multi, and I'm going to add in a single edge loop right here. And then I'm going to repeat the same action on the same side, so I have the same edge loop near the same spot, or at least another edge loop on the other side. Okay, and then if I come through here now and I start Qmeshing, and I'm going to push all the way through, boop, it recognizes that there's something there. And that's actually really cool, because what if, for the price of eggs, I say I actually want this to be a tapered hole? Well, I come through and Qmesh that, and it respects that edge loop. And now I have a tapered hole on the inside of the cylinder. Titan Revenge, what's happening? Dude, welcome in, man. Thanks so much. So here you go. Here's where Qmesh really like comes in great. Thanks for the raid, guys. That is awesome. You would love to 3D print this. Nice, nice, nice. Oh yeah, also because I always wanted to delete edge and then I had to bridge it back together. Right, exactly. Yeah, you don't have to do that with Qmesh. You could just do it this way here. And then from here, if you wanted to have even topology on the inside, like let's say I want to actually have the same amount of edge loops in the same spot on the inside of my tapered hole as on the outside of my other hole. So I have the cylinder here and I want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and just go to geometry. I'm going to go to edge loop and delete loops. And edge loop delete loops, what that will do is it will respect only the edge loops that support the shape. Everything else gets thrown out. I'm going to go ahead and just mask this whole shape off. I'm going to come in here with slice curve. And now I created a nice slice right between. So here's my edge loop right here, and it's the exact same space on the inside. So by masking this off, I can create custom edge loops, and this will work out really, really well. And then these edge loops will be in the same position on the inside as they will on the outside. So that's another way of doing that, or you could just do the typical multi-loops, select the amount of loops that you want, then come in here and tap one time on that edge, and that also will give you the same amount if you just want to have a nice control step between one edge loop to the other. But if you wanted those nice custom ones, just come in here and mask the whole thing off, slice curve, I want a nice loop right there, and I want a nice loop right there, and that's going to give me my supporting edge loops. So when I go ahead and hit dynamic subdivision, it gives me a nice fall off real quick, fast, and in a hurry. You had watched the Funko presentation a few days ago. I meant to ask, are you guys working in studio? I'm actually not working with Funko anymore. I actually work at Maxon now. So I am ZBrush trainer / instructor at Maxon, and I'm on the ZBrush team. When I was working at Funko, Funko was allowing for remote work, and they actually have artists. We had an artist who was zooming in from Spain. Andrea, I believe her name was. So Andrea was zooming in from Spain. Funko does work with that stuff well, and we drop a lot of career page links. So, talk to them, because if you're looking for remote work and they're willing to hire you, then talk to them about what you can and can't do. They have job openings all the time. So, awesome, because I used to delete edge and then, yeah, okay, great. You got that? Boop, boop, boop. Perfect. So, you are so welcome. So that's Qmesh in a nutshell. And again, I really like Qmesh. Qmesh also has a really other cool feature, which is, let's say we extrude this out here, and then I have an edge loop right here, boop. And then I want to take this one and make them tapered, right? It builds off of that edge loop. if I want to come in here, I can bridge that together. It detects that other edge, and now I bridge this together. So you can create some really fun shapes here. Maybe extend that out just a little bit. Come in here, extend that out a little bit. So again, you could do some really fun stuff. So it has all of this, and you're like, okay, now I want this one. Actually, I'm like, you know what? I actually want this one to be pushed back in. Boop, or I just want that one gone altogether. So there's Qmesh for you. Let's go ahead and delete all that. And let's come back here. All right, we have that metal material selected. That's what's happening here. Let's go skin shade 4 so we can see a little bit more. Okay, where are we at on time? Time is, oh man, time creeps up so fast, doesn't it? It just goes so fast. Okay, let me take a look at, like, I wanted to build up the rest of his stuff. So let's see what else I needed to build as far as he needs a screw in his hip. He has some bones there. So we can end up getting as gory as we want with this piece or as clean as we want with this piece. I'm actually thinking we should make like a little screw or something on top of that. And actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's make a screw, a custom screw that we would like to utilize. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I really have to learn how to do this hard surfacey stuff. Oh yeah, ZBrush, it makes it simple. You still think the blades are too small? Well, I haven't scaled it, but we will. He's gonna be a big print. He's not gonna be a tiny print. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's get the rest of the stuff built, and then we can go from there. We can also just extend this out a little bit too. We can also just go like, oh come on, local sim. What are you doing? What are you doing, Smalls? There we go. That's fine. We can do this a little bit more. All right, let's actually do this. We can actually scale this up a little bit more by just inflating that like that, and then just go ahead and mirror and weld it. Done. Okay, let's get a custom screw built so that we can actually like dig that in. All right, so let's go ahead and let's add in a new, let's actually, you know what? Let's do one better. Let's actually build the coil first. So I'm gonna build a coil. So we're actually gonna turn off edit mode. So let's put him here. Let's turn edit mode off. Say, yep, we're gonna switch. And we're just gonna go ahead and grab our simple tool. And we're just gonna go ahead and maybe grab this helix, drag this helix in. Now I'm going to hit edit mode, but we're going to go to initialize next. And now I'm going to go ahead and start tapering this up. Taper this down this way and come on up here. Let's make this a little bit wider. And then let's drop the coverage a little bit. Something like that. And then let's give it an even amount of twist. Let's do something like, ooh, 6 actually looks good. No, 8 looks good. Let's do 8 on that divide. That should be fine. And then let's go ahead and say, yep, make Polymesh 3D. That's going to be good. And now with that custom shape, let's go ahead and insert a new cylinder. I'm just going to scale this down and stretch it up. And we're going to do that same thing. We're going to go up to geometry, edge loop, delete loops. And this way we can make our own custom shape. So we can come in here like such. Really push this barrier. There's a barrier. Like this. Gonna mask this section off here. And then we're gonna go ahead and whiten that. Then I'm actually going to invert that mask and start tapering this down. Make sure that that information is intersecting as much as I can. Yo, what's up, Ryan? I think pure poly modeling will suffice for this kind of character. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to pull this point forward a little bit. I'm going to hold Alt to pull on the normal. I'm going to mask this off. I'm going to mask the whole thing off. And then I'm going to slice curve a few different custom edge loops here. Okay, I'm going to slice this one here, and I'm going to do here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do clip curve and push this point back in, something like that. So it's going to give me a little bit of a rounded tip. Okay. And then here I'm going to go ahead, hover over this edge. I'm going to turn back on the basic modeling material so we can see what we're doing. Come in here, insert multiple polys, and just start getting something like that. Just enough to support the shape of it. Now I'm going to go B, I, and then we're going to go ahead and use, where is it? Yeah, right here. I'm going to grab this point right here, and we're just going to go ahead and make this. We're going to bridge this. Boom, just like that. Now we'll come in here. We'll have the shape here. Fasteners typically have some sort of spacing or relief between the head of the bolt or the nut and the actual threads. And then we're going to go ahead and go to polygroups and group by normals. Okay. We can also just kind of hide this shape here for now. And then let's go to our ZModeler, grab this edge, and we're just going to extrude that up. That might be just a little too high. Fine. And let's actually, now what we can do is we can actually cause a little bit of quote relief. So let's hover over here. Let's go do multiple edge with interaction or interactive evolution. Drag some shapes or some edges and then pull that in. Yeah, that's going to be a lot better. And then we're going to go ahead and at this point, we're going to do auto groups. Let's actually do group by normals, which is right here in front of me. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and crease by polygroups. So when I hit D, say yep. It gives me a little bit of a rounded curve. Now here for this, what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to crease this whole edge loop here. Hovering over edge, crease, and then crease whole loop. And I'm going to delete this loop here by going to insert, deleting this one, giving me a sharper edge. Make sure that that's creased. You can either crease that, or what we could do is we can come here, insert our own edge loop, and give us a little bit of a fall off support. Yeah, that looks a lot better. And then I just want to tuck this one in, because if this was thread rolled or machined, it would actually be coming from the material. I used to work in manufacturing, so I used to make these screws all the time. So it'd actually be CNC'd or they would be thread rolled, and thread roll is really cool because they make a die, and then the metal comes in and it pushes the major and minor of the pitch relief in, and that gives us something like that. So it's either cut. This will be the high side of the metal, and this will be the low side, and they find the difference. So it'll be something like that. Now this is obviously a little bit, this is not super realistic, but this will give us pretty close to what we're looking for. And then let's go ahead and merge down. And we'll call this our screw. Perfect. When you paint with Alt Z, using ZModel, when you paint with using Alt ZModeler, is a way to invert the paint polys, just how you have them inverted, how you invert a mask. When I paint with, here, hold on one second. When you refer to me painting, I'm assuming you're meaning this right here, where ZModeler, I hold Alt and do this. So this is temporary polygroups. If I wanted to invert this, as a mask, no, you wouldn't need to, because if I would actually come through here and select these and say, I don't want these to be moved, but I want these to be moved, then you could actually just give this a different polygroup. You could also mask by this feature too. You could come in here and say, mask that section off. And that's how you would actually do that. That would be the easiest way to do it. Usually the temporary polygroup is a way so that you don't have to keep making polygroups. So most of us use it with the idea that you're actually selecting what you want to manipulate, and then you're manipulating just that one facet. However, let's say that you actually make another polygroup where you have multiple polygroups here, like this, and you're like, okay, I actually want to bring this back. I don't want this to be red. I want this to be one piece, but I don't want to do this where I have to hide everything and then hit Control W. Then what you could do actually is by holding Alt and then letting go and then holding Shift, you can actually paint back those different ones like that. But typically the Alt trick is just for temporary polygroup selections, and that's why you would do it that way. How can I keep my edges aligned on the y-axis when I use ZRemesher? They like to get twisted when I ZRemesh cylinder, for example. So when you're ZRemeshing with something like I'm going to back this up in time. There we go. So when you're ZRemeshing, what you want to remember when you're doing that, especially with a sphere, is that, or a cylinder. Let's actually come here. Wait, what happened? Boop. Oh, here's my merge one. Okay, I'm actually going to copy this and put this in here for a second. Let me paste this real fast. I'm just paste that in there. Open this up. Boop. Solo this for a second. Let's scale this up. Actually, let's send that home. Let's scale this up. Oh, I copied that in the wrong spot. That's why. Good job, Ian. Paste. There we go. Smooth this here. Okay. Got our screw there. Okay, so when we're doing something like ZRemeshing a cylinder, for example, what you want to make sure or remember is that when you're doing that, it's actually looking at the complete, I'm going to clip this, it's looking at the complete right side, or I'm sorry, left side of your topology. It's looking on this section here, and it's going to try to do its best to then, you know, make your whole thing going on. So when you're ZRemeshing, it's going to take this information here. Same thing like mirror and weld. It's going to take this information and it's going to look at the side first, and it's going to try its best to go ahead and ZRemesh the entire shape. When you turn off symmetry, it's trying to look at the whole object. It's looking at this side first and then saying, hey, okay, well, you're going to try your best to do something over here. So if I were to ZRemesh without any symmetry turned on, so I turn off symmetry and then I go to geometry and I just go to ZRemesher. I'm going to go ahead and hit ZRemesher. With Adapt turned on, ZBrush is going to say, hey, take a look at my mesh, try to match these points, and wherever you think these points are going to be, go ahead and make those points what they are. So it's actually causing the geometry to twist. So you can either turn symmetry on to go ahead and ZRemesh, and it's still going to do its best to keep everything nice and straight, but you still might get a little bit of twisting on the top, but it's at least having a lot more information to go off of. So you see here, now that looks a little bit more straight. If I actually go in half a little bit more, ZRemesh, so symmetry is going to keep it nice and straight as much as possible. I'm just going by half to really exaggerate that for you. But if you wanted to try to keep things a little bit straighter and have it asymmetrical, then maybe turn Adapt off and try to ZRemesh it. But again, Adapt is a better feature in which you could play with the adaptive size. You could say, hey, it's going to adapt naturally at 50. Maybe turn that down a little bit and then try that ZRemesher again, and that gives you a little bit more of a straight adjustment. So by keeping Adapt off or adjusting the Adapt function will give you slightly different results. But without symmetry, you're always going to get just a little bit of ZBrush saying, hey, this is what I think you should do, so we're going to do that, because we're trying to preserve the shape in the best way possible. So this is where ZRemesher really holds its strength. That's why I always emphasize, go ahead and do yourself a favor and give yourself some polygroups, give yourself some edges or some creases, and then tell ZBrush, hey, we're going to take a look at these edges, and I want you to do me a good solid favor, and I want you to just make sure that we don't break that boundary. So if you even just turn on Detect Edges, and let's go ahead and really push this forward on this example. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go Clip Curve. I'm really going to push this so it's nice and straight as much as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and say, just detect edges for me. Don't worry about anything else. Let's actually want to get rid of that one right there. let's actually keep that line straight. Detect edges. Then when I ZRemesh, it's going to go ahead and actually start separating out those polygroups. And that's going to make that a little bit better. But again, I would just, if you have adapt on, turn adapt off or adjust its size and try. Or if you can, keep symmetry, and symmetry will keep it as true and straight as possible. Yeah, and symmetry, yeah, you can, when you have symmetry turned on, ZBrush will respect the different aspects. So you can actually have X and Y turned on with that symmetry, and then you ZRemesh that. And that's going to make it even more. Here's before, ZBrush, boop, now it's looking at all of that. So when you have symmetry turned on, ZBrush will respect that. And the more you do, if you wanted to, just for fun, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off symmetry. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to mask this, push this down, just to really, you know, exaggerate life here. When you have symmetry turned on, like I said, it's going to look at this left side information for you. So when we have symmetry turned on, and we have it on all four sides, it's going to look at the left side, and try its best to go ahead and populate that on the right side. So if I do this now, it's going to, oh, I looked at that the wrong way. Look at your face. Okay, hold on. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's rotate this left side of the fence. Look at your face again. Okay, now we do this again with symmetry turned on, and now you can see here it's respecting that left side, the true left side, not the Ian looking on the left side. What is the on-screen keyboard software I'm using? The on-screen keyboard software I'm using is actually the OBS input. Get out of here, spam. It's the OBS input of stuff and things and stuff. So just look up OBS input, and that's a really good way to do it. So hopefully that answers your question with keeping everything aligned on the axis for you. Also, too, if anybody's curious, if you have ZBrush started and you would like to have the y-axis rotation beneficial to you, just turn that y-axis on, and that respects the y rotation the most. Sweet. Okay, we are actually going to be running out of time here soon, but I want to go ahead and place the screw. So let's come back in here, and let's go ahead and delete this guy. Let's go here to turn solo off, and now let's get the screw happening. So I'm actually going to push this here, rotate that 90 degrees. I'm going to scale this down. Put that screw in his hip. Actually, it's a little bit higher. It's more like there. There we go. For a second. Actually going to, what I'm going to do is give this a little bit more topology here. I give it just a little bit more love. These edges here are kind of not quite what I want. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, that's a little too much. I don't like it. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, that's fine. I'm being nitpicky. For a very small object, that's not going to be super important. So we'll get that screw in there like that. Great, wonderful. Now I want to actually apply a little bit of thickness to these bones here. And these bones are subdivided, so I'm going to drop the subdivision down. I'm going to go geometry, turn that off. And then I actually want to apply some thickness. So I'm actually going to go ahead and hover over an edge. We're going to get select lasso going, and I'm actually going to clip here. And I'm going to clip back here, I believe. Let's turn that cape off. Pickle Rick, your cape is in the way, buddy. All right, and let's actually do this edge right there. I want a little bit of thickness happening. So we're going to do auto groups, polygroups, auto groups, and then we're going to go ahead and do groups. And we're going to go ahead and do keep this like that. Perfect. And now I'm going to use that Qmesh to go ahead and bring this up a little bit more. So let's do Qmesh. Tap Alt for a different poly group. There we go. Hey sir, can you try some likeness sculpt? By the way, I level out in your streams. I don't specialize in likeness sculpts. I would not say that I'm super duper good at them, but I'm not against doing them. I actually have been wanting to better myself for a little bit. So that's something I've been contemplating, but I don't normally specialize in doing. However, I'm not against it. I might. The bots are back! I know. Hey, no problem. Did you ever work in perspective mode? If so, when? When I have attempted a likeness sculpt. I've done a couple likenesses. They were a struggle for me. But perspective mode is when I would do likeness because you're trying to match the focal length of any camera. Most people, when they shoot camera, like on their phone or something, you're looking at like between 35 to 50 millimeter focal length change. And so trying to find a likeness in a person, camera's distortion or perspective is going to play a huge factor in that. So when you first get the initial blockout, you know, and then you start trying to find the character or the person, from there you got to take into consideration the camera. And it's almost like too many reference. Like there's a point in which you can have too many reference, because then you're looking at different cameras and different focal length, and you're not going to unless you took the photo yourself and you were like, this is 35 millimeter or this is 85 millimeter, and you know for a fact that you had full control of the photo shoot. That's probably the only time you can like have a lot of reference. But even then, like, you can't control the distortion of what the camera does. So you're always going to get a little bit. So that's when I would use perspective. When I make toys, I mostly live in orthographic view, but when I do people, I tend to move more towards perspective. Great question, by the way. How did I do? How would you do that? How would? Let's see. When you have a complex shape with ZModeler and you decide to cut open a section, let's say you make it crates, or decide to delete 1/3 of it and want to close it back up. Not a problem. That's a great question. In fact, that's actually going to be one we're going to be ending it off of too. Does anyone sculpt anymore? All I'm seeing is ZModeler in every stream. ZModeler is just a really good way, but we sculpted this whole pickle. It's just when you have cleaner topology, ZModeler can be really, really good for you. What I would do, just real quick, just to showcase this a little bit better, if you wanted to go the sculptural approach, you know, you could just like mask this section off here, and then you could come in here and actually just hold control and inflate that. And that would have done the same trick. Let's actually come here like that. Wait, no. Yeah, have that section there and have that section there masked off. And then you can just hold control and then just inflate that out. Believe it or not, ZModeler is probably the easiest approach to a lot of your needs, which is why you see a lot of us utilizing it. But that actually gives a really cool shape. That looks a little bit more organic that way. Okay, so going to, not a problem. So going back off of the closing holes. So there's a couple ways you can choose to close holes. I'll show you the preferred method of shapes that are controlled. So there's a couple ways to do that. So if we go back to our cylinder example, so if I were to insert a cylinder again here, and I'm going to show you this way first. So let's say I wanted to delete this top half. Boom. This top half is deleted. Delete hidden. No more does it exist. Now I want to close this off because I found the shape. Yeah, if you just go to geometry and close holes, this is going to be the way that you'll see a lot of artists do it. So close holes, there it is. But this geometry is not the best, so I'd have to ZBrush that. So if I want clean geometry while doing close holes with ZModeler, if you hover over an edge and then you go to close, have concave and convex. Concave hole gives you that result, which is what the closed hole is pulling from. If you come here and go to convex hole and touch that, now you have a much cleaner topology, and it's going to rebuild it the best way it knows how. So if we were to take something like this shape, for example, hover over the spots and go to delete, and then come here and delete. So if I were to touch this, it's going to now build this kind of shape. So this may be not ideal for anything more than capping, but in this instance, what we could do is we could actually either do like a bridge where we go 2 holes and we pick our 2 points. This is really bad. Let's see, let's go here. Sorry, not a bridge. Hold on one second. Edit. Go bridge, edges, 2 edges, and you could do it this way, but you can see here, this actually might give you a little bit of a difficulty. So what I would recommend at this point is coming to extrude and extruding out. We can turn on snap first, snap to surface, and you can actually then come here and maybe adjust this. Then you can bridge this together. Come on, grab that edge. Boop, that's going to snap to that surface, snap to that surface, etc., etc. Like, so this would be one way you can end up doing it. And you just have to rebuild. And then from there, you could probably go ahead and do your edges. And you can bridge it back this way. And then what you could do is smooth that back down if you wanted to. So this may not be the most ideal way, but this is a really complex shape. Even though it seems like there's just a couple faces missing, the shape in itself is pretty complex. But once it's built, so you bridge here and you bridge here and you bridge here, now that shape is back. You can just do a relax smooth and get that relatively back to the way you would want, and then ZBrush it if needed. But just smoothing that back down should give us a pretty decent topology. So rebuilding topology can take a little bit of time, but ideally, this would be a good method to use at close holes. So you have a few different ways of doing it. But just like anything, even if you're in a box modeling software and you're trying to rebuild or custom shape, trying to split and stuff, you know, at this point, if I had a shape on this side that was like, let's say this side was perfect, like this was perfect topology, I really like this, and I did not like this half here, and I wanted to close that off, it might be best at that point to then go ahead and let's go super crazy. Let's just go ahead and do a knife curve, okay? I'm going to cut this half off, just like this. And I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to go ahead and mirror this. So I'd actually go to deformation, and I'm going to go ahead and mirror that on the x-axis, and then I'm just going to go ahead and mirror and weld it. And that will rebuild that too. So depending if you're on the middle of the axis itself, you just send it home and do that. And now I have my whole topology just back. So even though I just like chopped it up, it's now back to normal. Same with the points here. When you extrude an edge like that, is there a way to make it lined up again? So, a way you could do that? Not easily. Not easily. A way you could do that is through project history. That's getting really convoluted at that point. I would probably just turn around and try to just smooth it to the surface. Yeah, I would probably just try to like smooth it and manipulate it back if you had to rebuild something like that. But typically, if you're rebuilding like that, that's like fixing errors in the model that you're trying to really like control. That's going to be tedious no matter how you approach that. I don't know of a simpler way of doing that. Okay, that being said, we are on the 2-hour mark, so let's see, we have any last questions before we leave? I just asked this because it's different with a clean low topology compared to closing an organic shape. Yeah, it is a little bit different, but all the methods I showed you, even on the sphere, would work well on an organic shape. It's just like when you're doing an organic shape, something like, let's go back to our Pickle Rick here for a second. I'm going to delete this guy, and then let's come here with solo. So let's take something more like, if you're working with an organic shape, the beauty part is I wouldn't focus on the topology. I would actually focus on the idea that you're cleaning up the model to then be maybe ZBrush or something like that. So when you're working on something like this, and let's say you're like, okay, I need to cut this section off here, right? The destructive method is to go ahead and knife curve that. or clip curve that, come in here and then say go ahead and delete hidden, and now we have this guy right here, right? Well, at this point now you want to fix this up, but the topology is not super clean. So ideally, what I would actually recommend is just go ahead and separate this piece out. So just split hidden, come in here, okay, and then close your holes. And then from here, just ZRemesh it, but detect your edges. So geometry, ZRemesh, turn on detect edges. Go ahead and say like, yeah, let's go target poly of 10. That might be pretty good. And then go ahead and just ZRemesh that. And now with that new closed holes, you're going to get a lot better, a lot cleaner topology, a lot faster. So you could do something like this. And now you have that cleaner topology you can work with. And it even does you a favor, increases that edge for you. So that's how I would do the organic way of approaching it. But when using ZModeler, you're going to have a lot cleaner topology typically, so you'll be able to have a lot more customization and a lot more control over that mesh as a whole. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Meow, and that's going to pretty much cover it. You need coffee now? That's the question. Is that Frappuccino drink? Actually, no, it is cold brew, sweet vanilla cream cold brew. Not sponsored, but that's what I drink. I love it. Quick question. I know you can't paint high polypaint on low poly mesh, but is there a way to do within ZBrush, or do I need to bake a map for it? No. So here, real quick, if you wanted your Polypaint on a low mesh, all right, last question, and then we're gonna wrap it up. If you wanted to, okay, so we'll take this Pickle for example. Hey, what's up, Pickle? Okay, so if you wanted the Polypaint, you wanted the high Polypaint, but you have a low topology version, or you have subdivided your Pickle, like me here. So if I drop that down, that's super low. What you can do is just make a texture map. So, you know, take your model, turn around, and use just use your UV master. And go ahead and unwrap this and say something like that. And then kick up your high res, go to your texture map and say, go ahead and create new texture map. So now I have a texture map. And then when I drop down the topology, you can see here the paint is still really active because it's a texture. It's not blurring out or anything. So it's the high res paint on the low res model. So do you need to bake that? Only if you want. If you want to have the Polypaint look really good on the model itself, then obviously what you would need to do is have the high poly, you know, have the edge loops to support the paint. But if you're moving it over, like I got the high res and I want the low res, just make the map and then drop it down and you should be good to go. Pickle Rick! Why would you turn yourself into a pickle? I believe I do. Yes, 1 second. And then we're going to take off. So thank you everyone for being here. I really do appreciate. So let me actually go ahead real quick. Let me see something real fast. Boop, 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 boop. They sent me some stuff earlier. Where are we? Just see something real quick. Send you some links. So yeah, if you want to come on over, I'm going to go ahead and just do this. Go ahead and copy. And here you'll have it in the chat right about now. So you can pop it in. All right. Thanks for all the info and patience. You didn't mean to... no, it's totally fine. Actually, this is what I really love. I really like coming in and helping out. So for me, my streams are never truly about the project themselves. It's more about sharing the information and getting more and more people into ZBrush and being able to demystify this this program as easily as effectively as possible. So I really love coming on here and helping out, and I'm just building a project usually while we do it. So the fact that we have so many questions, honestly, is something that I truly dig and love every single day. So believe you me, like, Do not feel bad for coming and asking questions. This project, I'll continue to work on it a little bit more off stream, but this is where we got this time. So yeah, super love, super cool. All right, everybody, that's going to cover it today. Here is the Pickle. We did get the blade built. We're going to keep that blade kind of uniform to his body for now. We also got that screw built, so if you wanted to make your own custom screws, we did do that as well. And I'm probably going to timestamp this stream just so you can quickly select that stuff. All right, that is it, guys, and I will catch all of you later. Bye for now. See you next Wednesday. So that's 9 a.m. to 11 Pacific Standard Time. All right, I'm going to go get some breakfast. I'll see you later. Bye, 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 bye.